Anyway, the line, "You few who read my story shall not say," that brings us back to LATROME. It brings us back to the Schoenberg Library. It brings us back to 1996. Maryland and Liberia, in Scarf's History of Maryland, Volume 3, page 320, it is said that at December session 1831 of the legislature of Maryland, the state embarked zealously in the work of African colonization and made the munificent appropriation of $10,000 for 26 years for the transportation and removal of emigrants to Africa, and the state society was incorporated to accomplish the ends it had in view. The above, if not as accurate as it might be, suffices to inform the general reader that Maryland contributed largely toward African colonization. But the circumstances that induced the appropriation and the history of what ensued in this connection until the fund was exhausted deserve a more ample notice. This, the writer has a, and by the end, which will tie back to Thelonious Monk, the cover of Time magazine, which should have been the week of November the 22nd, 1963. On the 22nd of November, 1833, Mr. LATROME from the committee reported a draft of a Constitution and Bill of Right to a full meeting of the Board of Managers, which unanimously adopted them. The object of the state society and the principles upon which it acted are so well set forth in the preamble to the Constitution that this part of the instrument properly forms a part of the text. Footnote 1. Footnote 1. The meeting at which the Constitution was adopted last Friday was a very interesting one. By the time the documents presented to the Board of Managers were adopted, it was dusk, and 2 candles were brought into the large grand jury room in which the board had met. The Constitution had been engrossed on a skin of parchment with the seal of the society attached, and Mr. George Hoffman, the president, was the first person called on to sign it. He wrote his name in quite a John Hancock style and then said, "May the blessing of heaven rest upon the work that we have now commenced." The room by this time was quite dark, except the 2 dim candles, and the remark of the president was wholly unexpected. But as soon as it was uttered, there was a simultaneous, possibly, amen, in which all present most fervently joined. From a memorandum made the same evening, the Maryland State Colonization Society of Maryland, one of the United States of America, to all persons to whom these presents shall come greeting, with instructions to request the cooperation of David M. Perrine, P-E-R-I-N-E, and Hugh Davy Evans. Whereas the Maryland State Colonization Society desires to hasten as far as they can the period when slavery shall cease to exist in Maryland, and believing that this can best be done by advocating and assisting the cause of colonization as the safest, truest, and best auxiliary of freedom under existing circumstances, have determined to establish a settlement or settlements of free colored people and emancipated slaves at or near Cape Palmas on the west coast of Africa to be called Maryland in Liberia. And whereas it is not less the desire of the society that the evil of slavery should be removed from Maryland than that the immigrants form the state should find their happiness and prosperity promoted by their change of home, and that through their instrumentality and blessing of civilization and the gospel should be extended to a benighted land. Anyway, in the documentary at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, although the cover went by too quickly, the thinness of Thelonious Monk's profile on the cover, the thinness of his collar, and I think it was white, almost looks like a candle that has been burnt.